Yes, Mr.
Good morning, Ramesh.
Morning.
Yesterday, you spoke of the spiritual seeker
Yes.
and the start of his journey. Today, I'd like to look at the journey itself. But firstly, I'd like to ask you one more time again, what exactly is it that the spiritual seeker is seeking?
He doesn't know. He doesn't know. You'll be surprised, astonished, Mutribo, how many times the seeker doesn't know. Reason is obvious. He didn't start the seeking. Seeking happened. Now, if you are seeking money, you know what you are seeking. If you are seeking fame, tennis court, golf, music, art, you know what you are seeking. Here, the seeker doesn't know what he is seeking, it has happened. All he knows is he is not satisfied with whatever is. And I am not talking. Now, therefore I say, the spiritual seeking is the man below the poverty line is not concerned with spiritual seeking. And I suppose he is not supposed to. So someone above the poverty line, reasonably comfortable in life, he is puzzled. I have everything, to a reasonable extent, I have everything in life. Why do I remain incomplete, inadequate, unfulfilled? He doesn't know. So if you can say, what is he looking for? Is nothing spiritual. All he is looking for is to find out why, in spite of being reasonably comfortable in life, there's still a feeling of wanting, of remaining unfulfilled. You see. So when that feeling starts, he lets it take him wherever it is. So he starts reading, he goes to someone, or some friend takes him somewhere. And that is how the spiritual journey starts. Only when very few of them at some point starts wondering exactly what you asked me, what am I seeking? Yes. And very often the guru that they go to, unfortunate but true, many of the so-called gurus are not genuine people who have got the understanding. I'm not doubting their sincerity. They think they've got it. And they want to give it to someone else. That is the whole trouble.
But according to your concept, Ramesh, what is the seeker seeking?
The seeker seeking, for me, is astonishingly simple. And even if it strikes one of the inquirers that this is all I'm seeking, his mind tells him, don't be silly, it can't be that simple. Must be something more romantic. Something, unless there's some lights blazing in your head or something like that, it can't be enlightenment, it can't be self-realization. So even there, the mind is the problem. So according to me, what the spiritual seeker is seeking, and suddenly in all that confusion of years, the confusion suddenly drops away with the realization of this simple realization. For me, self-realization is the realization. In this life as we know it, there is no doer. Everything just happens over which no one has any control. So for me, the self-realization is the realization that no one is a doer, everything is happening according to a cosmic law, and therefore, this is important, and therefore it is stupid of me to blame anyone, either me or someone else. And the result of it is that is a load of shame and guilt and a load of hatred for the other. You can bring it down to, I'm not saying all round, but there is a deep down hatred of myself, hatred of the other. In other words, hatred of the human being. And that hatred is the biggest obstacle to the happening of self-realization.
And the happening of self-realization, what does it bring to a person's life?
Good question. That's what I'm saying is should really be the first thing the Guru should address when the seeker goes to a Guru. According to me, frankly, that is what the Guru should, what do you want? And he will say, I don't know. Then it is up to the Guru, and he can do that only if he is sure of what he is talking about. Then he should say, you have got everything in life. What more do you want? He said, I don't know. And then, the way I go it, you don't know what it is. So, how do you know that whatever you are seeking is not just an illusory romantic idea? But you don't. You know it's there, and you know it is there, because maybe not very often, but you have experienced what you are looking for. You have experienced what you are looking for, which is a sense of total fulfillment. A sense of fulfillment. You have experienced it. Now you think about it. And what is a sense of fulfillment? I truly want nothing more from life. In fact, I'm so full, I don't care if the death comes to me next minute. So fulfilled that I don't care if death comes next moment. You have had that feeling. So when someone thinks of these lives, you say, yes, I have had that. Then my point is, if you have had that and you've got it, why did you lose it? And on investigation on these lines is, according to me, the spiritual path. Now, technically, they say spiritual path, the karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga. That is, after you have got what you have and you understand it, then you think about it for some other, then you can divide it. Basically, whatever path you are following, what is the ultimate that you are looking for, whichever path. And that to me is that sense of total fulfillment. So you have got it, why did you lose it? That to me is the core sadhana. I've had it, I know what I want, why did I lose it? And if, as I keep saying, if that investigation is honest and thorough, you can understand. What do I mean by honest? Honest investigation, according to me, is, and the investigation is truly something I have come to. Why did I lose what I had? Because whichever time I keep thinking, I come back to the one question. I lost it because, to use extreme terms, a thought of something that made me hate myself, thought from memory arises, and that hating myself has destroyed that peace, or hating someone else has destroyed that peace. So therefore, I tell people confidently, investigate it, and you will come to the conclusion that every time you have had it, however rare, that experience which tells you precisely what you are looking for has been totally destroyed. The very foundation of it has been destroyed, so that it is impossible for you to get back into it, is the deeply hidden hatred for yourself and hatred for the other. And that hatred is based on something you did which you shouldn't have done, or something you should have done and didn't do. Or same thing applies to the other person. That is the hatred based on something I did which I shouldn't have done, something which I should have done and didn't do, or something which someone else did to me or did not do for me. In other words, if the investigation is clear and honest and thorough, you are bound to come to this conclusion. The whole problem is the sense of personal doership. Therefore, I come to the conclusion, unless I am able to accept totally, absolutely, without the slightest doubt, that no one is a doer, however often I get that experience, I cannot hang on to it. So that's why I say the self-realization is merely the realization. No one is a doer.
Ramesh, in the West, literally millions of dollars
Yes.
are spent every year on self-improvement. Can the self be improved?
The me can improve himself to the extent that he can, if he has, you know what I mean by programming. Genes, no book can tell you how to improve your genes. Only the books that can tell you is how to improve your conditioning. Your conditioning, your mental approach. So, to the extent that you mean, can there be any self-improvement?
Yeah.
I say yes, certainly. Now, if there is a tendency for someone to get angry very quickly, certainly some self-improvement book could tell you, as soon as the anger arises, and you have accepted it as your anger, then if you think of these lines, you will very soon get rid of that anger. Of course there can be improvement. Or, I'm impatient. I want to control that habit of being impatient. The books can tell you. In fact, I can tell you, which I have come across. In fact, that's how I have been able to modulate a little bit my basic feeling of impatience. Impatience really means getting over with whatever I'm doing, isn't it? What is impatience? I'm doing something, get it over with. So my formula for that is try and enjoy what you are doing. Then that wanting to get it over with will not arise. Series of exercises, yoga, whatever, series of movements. If you start with saying, I've got to do it in 5 minutes, how can you not be impatient? But I'm doing whatever movement it is, neck or whatever, or body twisting. I found myself gradually letting my impatience go below when I started enjoying the exercises. Enjoying what you are doing rather than trying to get it over with is part of self-improvement. But that has nothing to do with what we are looking for.
But that's what I'm trying to get to.
Yes.
Many people in the West
Yes.
feel that they have to go through a process during their spiritual search of getting rid of their desires, getting rid of their negative emotions.
Yes.
And they go into these courses, these practices with great sincerity.
Yes.
What is the difference between someone engaged in that activity
Yes.
and the investigation that you're talking about?
Basic difference, Mutribo. Basic difference. The basic difference is anger arises. And if I have no book on self can tell me how to prevent anger from arising. If that is my basic programming. The anger arises, I have got involved in it, then the book can tell me how I can try and control the disaster that the involvement brings. No book on self-control can prevent the anger arising. Anger arising. And you said, what is it, to control what?
I said that people feel that they have to get rid of their desires.
Desires.
Yes.
Whatever the desire arises. No book on self-control, no one can prevent the desire from arising. The arising of the desire is something which happens in nature. Arising of the desire for a particular thing, or not arising of a desire for something else which you don't like. So the arising of a desire which you are programming tends you to like. You simply cannot prevent desire from arising. You see? So all the effort to curb desire, stupid. You see? So, and as you say, millions of dollars are spent on this, which is impossible. And therefore the frustration.
But I think what people do get out of it, if they approach these techniques sincerely, is that they begin to understand the workings behind their negative emotions, behind their feelings of shame and guilt. They begin to understand that, and if that understanding is pursued sincerely, many people do experience in their lives a deeper sense of contentment.
The deeper sense of contentment arises only if the understanding is that the desire cannot be controlled. Whether I get involved in it, again the same thing. I get involved in it. My involvement is there. All you can do is to use any sadhana, medicine or whatever to reduce the effect of that involvement. That is all you can do. But the desire itself you cannot prevent.
So, once someone has come across your teaching and has understood that the core of it is the getting rid of the sense of personal doership, and yet he or she still feels attracted to a certain practice, a certain self-improvement course. What would you say to them?
Do it. I wouldn't say do it.
So you're not prescribing
No,
them
wait a
as
minute.
such.
I wouldn't say do it, Motribo. I'll say enjoy it. That is the point. I wouldn't say do it. I would say enjoy it. So, as part of the self-improvement, you started meditation and you like meditation. Then I would say enjoy it. But if you don't enjoy it, don't force yourself to do it. That is my only point.
Right. Is there any direct connection between the improvement of the conditioning and the event of the understanding? Is there any direct connection between the improvement of the conditioning and a person becoming self-realized?
Yes. The improvement means the process of the intellectual understanding going deeper into the total understanding. That is a process. There is a process. And that process, my suggestion is to investigate whether there is any action which you can genuinely call your action. That is the investigation. And my point is investigating action by action by action, not the happening of the action. Investigation, action by action. How did it start? Did I decide to do something out of the blue? Or did the action begin because of something, some happening over which I had no control? You see? And that way, every single action that you investigate, you will come to the conclusion that At no case did I decide to do that action from out of the blue. Something happened which led to an action which I now call mine. And I had no control over that happening. Therefore, how can I call any action my action? And during that process, which is certainly in horizontal time, at some point, depending upon your destiny and God's will and the cosmic law, a flash of total acceptance will happen.
Many gurus, many sages,
Yes.
I'm thinking of Ramana Maharshi in particular as an
Good.
example of
Yes.
this, gave many different practices
Yeah.
to different people who came and saw them.
Yeah,
You are firm
yeah,
with only recommending one practice, which is the investigation that you've just described.
yeah.
Can you tell me why you do that?
For one reason. The one who comes here, quite often Mutribo, has tried all the other things and failed. So what is the course of your thing? I did this, I did that, I did this, I did this, and I haven't had anything. So the various things that you suggest, at least people who come here have done it and failed. Therefore, you will be astonished how many people come here with exasperation, frustration, written large on their faces. Then they go into this gradually, and how many days I don't know, but sometimes fairly quickly. When they leave, their expressions are so changed that they write to me. I went back and my wife was astonished. Or my mother was astonished. So my point is the frustration with which my experience, I'm not saying everybody, most of the people who come here, more accurately, most of the people who are sent here by God, according to their destiny, have had considerable exasperation, frustration, because of the many kinds of practices they have done.
So are we sitting in the last rest stop on the journey? Are we sitting in the last rest stop on the journey?
If that is your destiny, that is your destiny, Mutribo. But you have come here, and it may be that you have come here not of your own volition. Your wife or your friend persuades you to come here. Then the resistance may be very strong. The resistance that I find strongest, my experience, very rare, but the strongest resistance is from a Catholic. Basis is, you are born in sin, you live in sin, you will suffer. That conditioning is so powerful. In fact, in one case, someone did come with that resistance. He came with his wife. Same conditioning. But over a period of, I think they were here for a week, 3-4 days, the wife started receiving something. So she suggested, could she please come in the afternoon and have a talk by herself? Meaning, without her husband. So she did, and to her, the teaching ultimately reached it. But this husband never, even, and it was very funny to hear people who were coming here used to take him to, they all went to the swimming bath. And after that, someone would start talking to him on this matter. 2 other people would join him. Very soon, there used to be a group of 5 or 6 people trying to convert this man and not succeeding. The resistance was so much. Then he sent me a book. He sent me a book called The Will of God. And in his in the edition which he has, on the cover, 650,000, over 650,000 copies sold. So it just shows 650,000 copies sold. I would imagine 2 or 3 million people might have read the book. So what I'm saying is, it shows the intensity of the conditioning. And what did the book say? Will of God, to me it's very simple. Will of God, thy will be done. That's the will of God. You see? But the one who wrote the book, Catholic priest at a fairly high level, he knew, like everybody knows, that will of God means God supporting me and not Mutribo. Mutribo expecting God to support him and not me. If there is a war between two nations, the will of God prevails for that nation which succeeds. So he had to give an explanation. So, for a simplest of simple things, thy will be done means thy will must prevail, has always prevailed, is prevailing now in the smallest detail, and will continue to prevail in the smallest detail in future. Thy will be done. But you know, it needs an interpretation. So the interpretation was, there is a natural will of God, intentional will of God. Then there is a circumstantial will of God. And finally, the ultimate will of God. And he makes bold to say the ultimate will of God is when the good succeeds. So, he says in the Second World War, the arising of the Hitler, circumstantial will of God. Only when the Allies won the war, the ultimate will of God prevailed. He doesn't answer the question. Supposing the Allies had not won the war, how long would he have had to wait for the ultimate will of God to prevail? So when I read that book, somehow I started making notes, and the book Sin and Guilt came out.
Ramesh, I think one of the most significant events in a spiritual seeker's journey is when he or she finally meets his teacher or
Yes.
guru.
Yes.
What is the function of a guru?
The guru, a genuine guru, has accepted he has no function. Most importantly, the genuine guru knows he has no function. And therefore he can only talk to people who are sent to him. The genuine guru does not advertise. He knows that people are sent to him so that they are supposed to get his concepts. And he makes no mistake. He says, understand, what I am saying is a concept. And it is fresh conditioning. All I say, therefore, is, listen to me totally. After that, ask your questions. The point about it is, what happens very often, you are listening to me. While you are listening to me, you are formulating your next question. Therefore, you have truly not listened to what I am saying. Therefore, I always say, listen to me totally, please. That is all I expect from you. After that, ask your question. Then, having got the answers to your question, then you decide where the ultimate concept is acceptable to you or not. And a really beautiful example I had was a Buddhist monk who came here and had 3 or 4 talks with me. The very first time, I mean, a lovely person, extremely humble, that is to say, he made it clear, it was clear that he had not come here to convert me into a Buddhist. That is what I mean by honest investigation. So he came here. We had a preliminary talk. You see. He had no questions. And at the end of it, he was very satisfied. Next day, he came with a long list of questions. He listened to me totally the first day. No questions. Next day, he had a whole list of questions. They were all answered. The third day he came, 2 or 3 questions. They were answered. And then, at one point, there's a book there, tapes there. At one point, I said, "You see what I mean?" And he said, "Yes, yes, yes." You see? And the transformation, even on his face, was so obvious. An Italian couple were there, were watching him. And he's at the end of it, he said, "Ramesh, believe me, the expression on his face when he said that yes, 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 was as if sitting in your place, he saw the Buddha sitting. That was the glow on his face." Why? Because total listening, total questioning, then the acceptance or not of the concept.
But is it not reasonable that a seeker would come to a guru looking for truth, and he or she comes to you and you said, "I can't give you truth, I can only give you a concept"?
Yes.
What is the exact relationship
Yes.
between a concept and the truth?
See, basically what I'm telling people is, there is no truth. You have heard me say, anything any sage has ever said, including the highest sage in your understanding, anything that any scripture of any religion has said is a concept. A concept being something which some people will accept, some people will not. Therefore, the concepts of one religion are not acceptable to another concept of another religion. And that is why we have been having religious wars ever since we can remember. On this basis, I ask them, anything that is not acceptable to everybody without exception is the only truth. Can there be any truth like that? Most of the people say no. Then I tell, according to my concept, I repeat, according to my concept, there is only one truth. And that truth is the impersonal awareness, the existence of the impersonal awareness of being, existing. I am. No one can deny that. No one can deny that he exists. But his existence is not his existence as an individual. I am, the impersonal awareness of being, I am, is the only truth.
So someone comes to you looking for truth,
Yes.
and you tell them what you've just told me.
Yes.
There is only one truth, that's
Yes.
the impersonal sense of being.
Yes.
How does this help the spiritual seeker?
To understand that whatever I tell them is not the truth. Whatever they have heard from their previous gurus, irrespective of what they thought, is not the truth.
How can a spiritual seeker recognize a true guru?
He cannot. Therefore, so many sincere but not real gurus, and a host of insincere rogues. The only way, Ramana Maharshi said, only way you can recognize your guru at the moment is when there is an impact. Therefore, a guru, who a friend of mine, well-known guru, a friend of mine described him, he knew him right from the, he said, I've known him from the day he started talking, and I'm convinced he is a mass hypnotist. So, anyone can be hypnotized into accepting him as the guru. The only way the disciple can recognize his guru is when something happens. When something happens. Not the early impact. That's my point. Early impact, when in course of time, that impact leads him definitely somewhere and he knows it, then he can recognize that he is the guru.
And yet I've heard you say in your own personal experience
Yes.
that as soon as you met Maharaj, there
Yes.
was a feeling of being at home.
Yeah.
That was immediate.
That was immediate. Why? Earlier, I've had experience for 20 years of the knowledge, of the understanding, but not that one-on-one impact.
Do you have disciples, Ramesh?
I don't have disciples, but I cannot prevent someone from thinking of himself as a disciple and me the guru,
Why is it that you don't have disciples?
because disciple is just a concept. Disciple is just a concept. But my point is, the guru does not demand anything from a disciple. But the disciple, when he considers himself a disciple to the guru, something happens to the disciple about the relationship. And the impact that has happened on the disciple, the guru also sees it.
Many seekers believe that they have to surrender to a guru.
Yes.
Can you talk about that surrender to a guru?
Again, you are quite right. Many gurus demand surrender from the disciple. According to me, surrender can only happen. Surrender can only happen. And the surrender can only happen when, as I say, total listening, questioning, and then acceptance or not. So when the acceptance of the final, after the whole process, first listen, ask questions. The most difficult questions you think for the guru gives his concept of it. Then, when you have gone through it and you realize no more questions, so that's another thing. When does anyone know that his self-realization has happened? That he has been able to accept no one is a doer. When, and that is what a Zen master has also mentioned, no more questions. Questions just stop. I had a guru for 20 years. The very first week, I came to the conclusion, he is an extremely sincere person, no doubt about it. He has a very deep knowledge of Advaita. But somehow, he is not my guru. He is not my ultimate guru. And when I mentioned this to Sharda, Sharda suddenly remembered this Nadi reading. Nadi reading taken a long time ago, 20 years ago probably, which said, I shall meet a guru after 5 or 6 years after the reading. I will have a contact with him for 20 years or more. Not much will happen. 1 year after retirement, I shall meet a guru who is my genuine guru, and then whatever is to happen will happen very quickly. So when I mentioned that, Sharda remembered. I repeat, that Guru was very sincere, no doubt about it. And the basis of the understanding happened there.
Once a seeker has found his guru, his teacher,
Yes.
does he have a right to expect moral behavior from that teacher?
That's an excellent point. What is expectation of a moral behavior from a guru? The guru will not do anything which is immoral, isn't it? Expectation from the behavior of a guru means the guru will not do anything immoral. But my very total acceptance, no one does anything. Therefore, if an immoral act happens, which society calls immoral, and maybe in a different situation, after say 5, 10, 20 years, that action may not be considered immoral. You see?
Yeah.
Therefore, if any immoral action happens, I would take it. It has happened and my guru hasn't done it. That is how I would say it. But fact remains, the happening of that immoral action is the destiny of that body-mind organism according to a cosmic law. Wait a minute. And the result of that immoral action take its course.
I ask the question because more and more
Yes.
there are people have experiences, and there are many stories in the newspapers of teachers and gurus apparently indulging in behavior that doesn't seem to fit their standing.
Yes.
How does a disciple
Yes.
recognize or make the distinction between a simple crook
Yes.
and a person whose programming has simply allowed this immoral event to happen? How can one recognize the difference?
If the understanding has happened, and what is understanding? No one is a doer. Then truly the disciple will understand that whether that person is to be labeled a crook or a gentleman, in both cases, whatever happens is neither doing of neither. You see?
Yeah.
So that has nothing to do with his accepting someone as the guru.
Right.
I'll tell you a specific case, Mutribo, in this. A very well-known guru, and this was told to me by someone right in the inner circle, so that he could go anywhere. In the inner circle, probably 5 or 6 people, inner circle. He left the guru, and I met him in California. And he told me, not hearsay, he told me, he went in a corner room, which is usually kept as a sort of go down or whatever. He pushed the door and he found his guru with a young boy, an immoral act. And he said he was so destroyed that he decided immediately to pack his bags and leave. That's what he did. Packed his bags and was about to leave. Then he said, as a matter of courtesy, I must go and tell my guru that I'm leaving him. So he went to the guru And he said, I'm leaving. So the Guru said, he didn't try to persuade him. What the Guru said was, you have created the problem. You solve it. You have nothing to say about whether he did right or wrong. You have created the problem. You solve it. And this, he himself told me that. And to that date, he didn't understand what the Guru had meant. So when we had a talk, I asked him, do you now understand what he said? No. Will you give me permission to explain what he said? Sure. So this is what he said. He didn't try either to justify or accept the condemnation. An action has happened. An action has happened because it was supposed to happen according to the cosmic law. If you had accepted that, you would have had no problem. You created the problem because you thought someone had done something and you judged whether it was proper or improper. Anyway, it stunned him a bit. But then anyway, he said, this happened 10 years ago.
Recently in America and
Yeah.
around the world,
Yeah.
we've all read stories of the tremendous abuse that has been going on in the Catholic Church.
Yes.
How does this fit in to what you're talking about now? Where do these people fit into what you're talking about now?
Basically, I think it is not proper to expect a man to be celibate. You cannot force celibacy on a person. And if you force celibacy on a person, what happens later, you can hardly blame him, can you?
Ramesh, I'm just imagining a seeker in the West, a man who's just discovered that he's interested in this subject of spirituality.
Yes.
He doesn't have a lot of money.
No.
He's not able to travel.
Yes.
He's living in some, say, American city.
Yes.
And he's looking for someone who can guide him.
Yes.
Can you give some guidelines to this type of person as to how he might find an honest teacher?
Mutribo, there are, I think, at least 20 books which I have written. God knows how many hundreds of books are there. So which book he will hang on to, the contents of which book will appeal to him, is his destiny. You see? But actually, this is precisely the argument which persuaded me to go to the States for the first time in 1987. Henry Dennison came here. He wrote to me. He's on his world tour. And he expects to spend 3 days in India. Could he come and see me? I said, yes, he is welcome. So he came for 3 days, stayed here for 3 months. And during the last 1 month, every day he tried to persuade me. He said, come. I had the time and the money to come and see you. Many of my friends don't have either or both. They would very much like, why not come? I kept resisting it. Even then I was 70 years old. And even then I didn't want to teach. Someone comes to me, I'll gladly talk. But then finally, a day before he left, he brought an airline ticket for me. And here's the ticket. And at that time, I didn't even have a passport. You see. So, when I finally bought them and took the ticket, they had on their view computer, check passport. So that is how it happened. The argument was precisely what you said.
Ramesh, can a guru grant freedom to the disciple?
No. And if it is the destiny of that disciple to get this self-realization, the guru has only been one of the instruments needed by the disciple to get his self-realization. But I honestly never have been able to accept that any guru can press his thumb between the eyes and grant him self-realization.
Is the physical presence of a guru necessary for a seeker?
That again basically depends on the disciple, on the person, on the seeker. But that it has happened recently is my friend Tom. He said he had read many books. He had everything. He knew the concept. But when he came here, he said, suddenly everything became light. Now, he says it. 9 others may say, I've already had that, you just confirmed it. Why? So to what extent the presence of the Guru does something, again depends entirely on what is supposed to happen according to the cosmic law. But that it can have an effect, that I know, because I've seen it.
Ramesh, when you say cosmic law,
Yes.
could you go into that a little bit? What exactly do you mean by that, those 2 words?
What I mean by cosmic law is, very broadly, the script of the movie. What happens in the movie is according to the script. So what happens in this movie of life it is according to the script, which I say, the cosmic law. Basically, I mean, when I say cosmic, I mean the script.
What it seems that we've come down to is that the seeker's destiny is the seeker's destiny.
That is according to God's will or the cosmic law, whichever way you want to say.
And I've also heard you talk about grace, the effects of grace.
Yes.
What is grace, Ramesh?
Grace is the sudden realization during the process of investigation. I cannot be the doer. The flash of total acceptance happens only if there is grace according to divine. It's a divine grace. Why does it happen at that particular time? That's his destiny. So even the happening of the grace is destiny. There is a guru in the West whose book I have read and who has been interviewed. And he says, nothing has to be done by anybody. It's always there. It's there now. Nothing, it's there now. And in his own case, he says what happened was, when he was 21, he was going into a park. And while he must have gone to the park many times. On that particular occasion, he said, something happened. And he suddenly had the feeling of being one with everything. An enormous feeling of love for everything arose. You see. So, he said, what has he? Everything is there already. But my point is, if in this man's case, he had the understanding because of that happening, and he tells everybody, it's there, you have got it. My point is that he could get only if such a happening happens to him. See what I mean? He doesn't say, you will have that if that happening happens. No. I'm telling you, you have got it now. And another guru I am told, he said, someone said, I've got it, I've got the understanding. Next day or next month, he says, I've lost it. So this guru has been saying, I gave it to you and you lost it.
This process of getting it and losing it,
Yes.
I think is an experience that, again, many spiritual seekers go through
Yes.
and have.
Yeah,
Some people refer to this getting it as a glimpse of truth, or
Yes.
a glimpse of the understanding.
Yes.
What exactly is a glimpse? What exactly is a glimpse of the understanding?
all right, let me put it this way. Somebody gives you a small dose of, say, LSD. You have that experience. You have the glimpse. But LSD you can always go and get. But this glimpse of what I am talking about, you cannot demand. And therefore, my point, and that's what Aldous Huxley said. He wanted to have, and he had that. So as far as Aldous Huxley was concerned, I know that this is so. One with whatever. All Aldous Huxley wanted was to know that this is so. But in the case of, how does a drug addict happen? He has this glimpse or an experience and he wants more and more of it. That's the problem with something artificial. But if your idea is only just to know, of course everybody begins that way, I know. But Aldous Huxley he knew and then he stopped it.
But for the seeker who has the glimpse,
Yes,
the understanding doesn't settle completely,
yes,
and he goes back to where he was before.
yes.
What recommendation do you have to
The
someone?
recommendation, what I'm saying is, what do you want? A sense of fulfillment, totality. The answer, that glimpse is the answer to my question, how do you know it can be had? How do you know that it's not just a wishful hope? How do you know that it's not just an illusion which you cannot get? He said, no, but I've had it. So my point is, everybody has some time or the other got it. But someone who has tasted LSD knows he has got it. So that point I'm saying is, the only glimpse you have is, according to me, all that is necessary to tell you that it is not an illusion. The advantage of that taste, one way or the other, is to know that what I am seeking is not an illusion, because I have tasted it. I've had a glimpse of it.
I think it's only in the last 30 or 40 years that Western people have really been exposed in fairly substantial numbers to the tradition, a long tradition in the East, of the relationship between the guru and the disciple. In your experience dealing with Western seekers, have you noticed any difference between Western seekers' relationship to a guru and an Indian or Eastern seeker relationship to a guru?
Yes, the Westerner comes to me with a fairly open mind, much more receptivity, even though he has read many books, he has been to other people. The Westerner comes to me with a much more open mind, whereas the Indian who comes to me loaded with a lot of concepts. And quite often, the Indian person who comes to me does not come with an open mind to receive something. He comes here to show me what a learned man he is. He comes here to take advantage of a ready-made audience for him to exhibit his knowledge. That is the difference. The European comes here with much more open receptivity.
I'd like to ask you a little bit about the traditional paths of a seeker.
Yes.
And I think that the two most common are the path of knowledge, jnani, and the path of devotion, bhakti.
Yes.
Could you speak a little bit about these two paths,
Yes.
their differences and their similarities?
Yes. I honestly never known why they really consider it separate. Probably because the one who is a bhakta, a typical example, Murtibo, is Saint Tukaram. He has written 5,000 verses. Bhakti was his very blood. And his earlier verses tell, his guru in form was Vitthal, another name for Krishna. So basically, even in Bhakti, basically two, Krishna and Shiva. Krishna are called Vaishnavites and Shiva is Shaivites. And this, once the distinction, it goes to such an extent that in some places, even to say Shiva is a saint, to that stupid, ridiculous extent. Anyway, Tukaram was Krishna, Vithoba. So his verses are in Vithoba, he says, for those who want to see you formless, to him, to them, you be formless. But for me, a typical Hindu, from life to life, birth to birth, always, please, show yourself in a form so that I can worship you. Bhakti in its extreme. Then, when the understanding had happened to him, suddenly the oneness, when jnana had happened to him, Saint Tukaram writes a verse in which he says, he goes to the temple and he says, Vithoba, you are a rogue. You knew that you and I are one. And yet, you extracted from me worship for so many years. You are a rogue. Now I know you and I are the same. So the bhakta has suddenly become the jnani. But until he became a jnani, until the jnana happened to him in a flash of understanding, he was a jnani, different from a bhakta. He was a bhakta different from a jnani. I have always felt, from my own experience, that they were not two. My deepest understanding ever since I can remember is that no one does anything. No one can change whatever is going to happen, it has already happened. And curiously, it so turns out that the teaching which happens here begins with, thy will be done. You see? And ends with the total acceptance, no one is a doer. So here the teaching has taken its own course so that the teaching begins with bhakti, ends with knowledge. And as a matter of procedure, it again ends with bhakti by the bhajans happening. And believe me, it's been happening. I've never laid down anything. That's how it's been happening.
In your experience, Ramesh, have you noticed any difference between the path of a male seeker and the path of a female seeker?
My experience has been, somehow the woman seeker happens to be more receptive. The woman seeker happens to be more receptive. I quickly see the teaching reaching the woman more easily than the man. Except that's my experience.
So many seekers from the West end up in India. So many people find themselves coming to India
Yes.
to continue their search,
Yes.
to continue their
Yes.
exploration.
Yes.
Is there some geographical boundary to the understanding? Can the understanding happen anywhere? And if it can, why is it that so many people come to India to try and find it?
Why do so many people come to India to eat a genuine mango? According to geographical condition, each place, India, pears and peaches don't happen. So, mangoes is India. So just as mango is native to India, the understanding is native to India.
But can the understanding happen anywhere?
Anywhere. Understanding can happen to anyone, anywhere. That's why, from the sublime to the ridiculous, I've said, understanding can happen when you're sitting on a commode. No reason why it couldn't. Then I say, if it happens when you're sitting, don't forget to wipe your ass.
I think many Western seekers, when they come to a teacher in the East,
Yes.
they may experience great peace,
Yes.
great clarity,
Yes.
great expansion,
Yes.
great fulfillment, and then the demands of their life
Yes.
take them back to their home in
Yes.
the West,
Yes.
their old job,
Yes.
their old conditioning,
Yes.
and they lose everything that they had experienced when they were away.
Yes.
Is this loss connected to the effect of them returning to the collective conditioning that they've been brought up in?
No. According to me, that they have lost it is not true. That they have not lost it is not true. Supposing you are on a holiday for a week, Mutribo. You are with your, I know you don't have a wife and children. Take an ordinary person. He has taken a week's leave or a month's leave. He is at home with his family. All the time he is with his family. Then the leave is over. He starts going to the office. Has he forgotten his family? Has he lost his family? Precisely. Where can the understanding go? Where can the family go?
But something is lost. People experience a loss of clarity, a loss of peace, a loss of fulfillment. It's a real feeling when people go back.
Yeah.
Okay, what you're saying is deep down they can't lose it.
Yes.
But a lot of people go through this experience.
Yes. So the experience they are going through is the experience in the moment. Of course there will be that. In the moment, one moment peace, another moment pleasure, pain. Peace, lack of peace. But whatever they think they have lost is really what happens in the surface. Deep down the understanding is still there. So what happens from during the day is at the surface, moment to moment. And the understanding is that you can never control what happens in the moment. So the understanding is you accept whatever happens in the moment.
You speak about the importance of the intellectual understanding of your teaching. Can you talk a little bit about why you consider that to be important, and what are the pitfalls, what are the drawbacks of the intellectual understanding?
The intellectual understanding is the drawback, Mutribo. But you can't help it. So my point is, ultimately the understanding has to go straight to the heart. Now whether the understanding does go to your heart straight away, first day of 2 or 3 days, or whether it has to go through various windings, various gurus, various books, various concepts, and then come to then all that in most cases, the understanding has to be first accepted by the intellect. And how long you'll be you'll be involved in the intellectual understanding, and how quickly you go to the total understanding is your destiny and God's will.
You mentioned this journey going sometimes through many gurus.
Yes.
Many teachers,
Yes.
many gurus have a certain condemnation to what they term as guru hopping. A
Yes.
seeker moving from one guru to the next and never settling with one of them. What's
Yeah.
your opinion of guru hopping?
There is no condemnation. No one does guru hopping. Guru hopping happens because it is supposed to happen. As simple as that, Mutribo. No one does guru hopping. If guru hopping has to happen, it will happen according to the destiny, God's will, or the cosmic law. No question of any condemnation. That is my basic point. No question of condemnation. If anything, sympathy, yes, but not condemnation.
Is it your own experience that certain gurus are right for certain people at certain times of their life?
Indeed. And that is their destiny, and that is what happened.
Right.
And that is what happened.
One last question for today, Ramesh.
Please.
You've spoken about this manifestation as not really having reality. It comes and goes. It comes
Yeah.
and goes for the individual body mind when
Yeah.
he wakes up and he goes to sleep.
Yes.
And there is a concept that eventually the whole manifestation itself will be drawn back into the source.
Yes.
So it appears that what we're looking at is, in fact, what the Hindus have always called a dream, Maya.
Yes.
In a dream,
Yes.
why bother to get enlightened?
In a dream, as in real life, nobody can help being seeking or not seeking. If you are talking of involvement, if we understand that all this is a dream, then why do we get involved in it? That is your question, isn't it? If we intellectually we do know that all this seems like a dream. And in a dream, we suffer. When we wake up, that suffering is understood to be not your suffering. So here, we know that this life is a dream. Let us say this is a living movie. So in a living movie, and this is the actual movie, what happens in an actual when you're watching a movie? You know you've bought a ticket, you've gone there, you've got a place, you sit, and when the movie starts, you know it is a movie. Very quickly, you forget that it is a movie. You respond to what happens in the movie. You laugh at the humor. You cry at the sad things. So while you are watching the movie, you are involved in the movie. So what? A good movie is that in which you get involved. And there can't be a better movie than the living movie. So you get involved in the living movie. What's wrong? The body-mind is supposed to get involved in the movie.
You often quote Ramana's encouragement to the seeker
Yes.
not to forget that the seeker's head is already in the tiger's mouth.
Yes.
But if you were sitting next to a dying man
Yes.
whose head had been in the tiger's mouth
Yeah.
for a large part of his life,
Yes.
and who understood perfectly clearly for himself
Yeah.
that the understanding had not happened in this life,
Yeah.
what would you say to him?
Does he consider me his guru?
Yes.
Then I would put my hand on his forehead. Let him have as much healing that my hand is supposed to give him, and telling him, it will soon be over. You don't have to fear. Your fear, your pain, everything will soon be over. And you will be home. That's what I want.
Thank you.
Okay, Matriva.
May your form be in my heart and your name on my lips. May your form be in my heart and your name on my lips. May your form be in my heart and your name on my lips. May your form be in my heart and your name on my lips. तुझे रूप चित्ते रहो, मुझे तुझे नामा. तुझे रूप चित्ते रहो, मुझे तुझे नामा. देह प्रपंचाच्या दासा, सुखे करो कामा. Suke karo